other creature gaining control over fire.
It's snowing.
And distributing it according to his whims and urges, not ours. Our world is
near Ottawa.
based on
So we're on the new highway,
to
aren't we?
manipulate fire.
Well, yeah.
And you find many careful of it. And to be careful,
gonna be
it's extremely dangerous. So you have to design a social order to make use of this enormous power. But it's still limited. That power is limited by the capacity of the landscape to carry fire. And if it's snowing, if it's soaking wet,
We're on the new half of this road, aren't we?
wrong season, it's not going to burn.
But in those cases, you bring fire indoors. You protect it somehow.
And that's right. And you often see pictures from exploring accounts and the rest, where the fire has a windbreak.
It used to be over Pass Road.
But people are still out.
And it's longer, but it goes all the way back to
domestication, bringing it under a domus. A domicile is often for the fire more, and the preservation of the fire rather than people.
Okay, so the first age of fire is when it's uncontrolled, and now the second age is when humans get control of it, what you called anthropogenic fire.
It is part of the domestication of fire, the ability to project fire on the landscape, not just to make a cave or a domus habitable, but to make the entire world around us habitable. In effect, we're becoming symbiotic here. Fire's domain in the planet, its timing and its spatial distribution is very much more and more dependent on us, even as we are more and more dependent on fire.
To make agriculture possible, for instance, yes?
Think about agriculture outside of floodplains. In floodplains, water does the fertilizing and purging. But if you move outside that, what is going to do that? How are you going to create conditions so you can put plants in, have them thrive, particularly exotic plants that aren't going to compete very well with the native species?
What about just chopping down the trees, clearing the land with an axe, and planting stuff? Isn't that good enough?
No. For one thing, you're probably not going to have the right kind of fertilizers that you need. The other thing is that you're going to have the whole landscape encumbered with all these large trees and limbs and the rest. You're not going to be able to move around very well, and a lot of the land is just simply going to be buried. There's no reason to slash unless you burn. The slashing itself doesn't do any good. It just makes a mess. So you either do two things. If the trees are useful, and in many places they can produce fruit or nuts or something useful, then you leave them, you kill and burn up all the small stuff. That's what fire burns easily anyway. I mean, forest fires don't burn big chunks of wood. I mean, imagine putting a big chunk of wood, particularly green wood, in your fireplace. What's going to happen? It'll put the fire out. It's the small stuff that you want. So that's what you clear and burn. So this is what I'm calling the whole realm of sort of second fire, or people, anthropogenic fire, people bringing fire to the landscape, changing the dynamics and geography of natural fire and putting it into a form that people find more habitable for them. Now we've gone into a kind of third fire, what I call industrial fire, and part of the problem with second fire is that you still have to have stuff to burn. And after you've chopped things down, and if you overdo it or you shorten the cycle, then the whole system begins running down. So you need more stuff to burn, and what we've done is go into fossil forests, fossil biomass. We're exhuming all of the stuff that was buried long ago, and we're burning that.
Coal and oil.
And to burn that, we have to have special combustion chambers. And so we have to create machines to burn it. And so we now get our firepower not by applying flame directly to the land, but indirectly by routing it through machines. We run cars, tractors. So this whole process of industrializing is having the effect of replacing all of that old open burning with some kind of confined or internal combustions. And that is remaking landscapes. We may be entering a fourth phase where, because of considerations of carbon and counting and the rest, we just will not tolerate open burning of any kind. Fire is pretty much disappearing from the industrial world.
You say that we've replaced open burning with fire that's contained, internal combustion, and we don't see it. I mean, that's why it's called internal combustion, I guess. It takes place inside of something.
That's right. Instead of allowing it to burn in sort of open surroundings, you control the flow of the reaction and allow the heat to build up in useful ways, in ways that can then be applied to pistons or to drive other sorts of things.
And after we get fire completely contained, the next step is to get rid of it altogether.
That won't work.
You know, you open a newspaper and fire has a very bad... Doesn't a fire needs a good libel lawyer these days because it has a very bad press? And what has a good press? The ways to live and control energy that have nothing to do directly with fire. Wind, we want turbines. Water power, hydropower, solar panels. All the things that fire did are now thought to be better done or safely done or ecologically responsibly done by some other mechanism than fire. So maybe the fourth age of fire is no fire?
Well, I think it will be fire as a kind of endangered species. You know, if you live in a developed country, an industrialized country, you're not going to see much fire. We don't heat our houses with it. We don't cook our foods with it. We don't use it for lighting. There are very strong prescriptions against any kind of open fire and burning, even in forms like, lighting up cigarettes. Now you have to do it in special places. Fire is just gone from daily life. And in these settings, that's not a bad thing. The cities aren't designed to accommodate it. I mean, that's how cities were renewed in the past. The old slummy overground areas would burn down and the new town would grow up.
Or even the non-slummy areas would burn down too.
They were reconstituted for us. And they burned at the same time and exactly the same way as the landscapes around them.
But by reconstituted forests, you mean the buildings were made out of wood. They were just like trees except a different shape.
They already knew it.
They were just a rearranged forest, and they burned in exactly the same way. Well, we've broken those kinds of relationships now in cities. And so what people who live in these landscapes know of fire is what they read or most often see, what they see on TV, or now maybe what the images they see on the web. And that is a very distorted view of fire, because only the most telegenic, that is the most disastrous and high intensity fires are viewed, and they're stripped of all the sort of sensory context that they would have. I mean, we get something of the light, but you don't feel the radiation. You don't hear them. I mean, large fires are
It's so wonderful
very
to be
loud.
here in the winter time. I love winter.
You don't sense that. You don't get the texture of darkness and sunlight coming through. I mean, all sort of the sense reality.
You live winter
it's all
too, right?
Sublimated in various technological ways, and that's our experience of fire.
Yeah.
We may have domesticated fire, but fire also domesticated us. It forced us to take care of it, because it doesn't take care of itself. It has to be fed. It has to be tended. The social arrangements have to be organized to see that it does what we want and doesn't go feral. And so we have as many responses to fire as there are fires around, but we can certainly
So what's the
speak of
temperature now?
extremes. One is some of the terrifying fire that we identify.
So it's snowing instead of raining.
Almost all visions at the end will have the word
So the actual
consumed in
temperature is
fire.
a little bit below
And even
zero.
in a sense beyond time, I mean, we'll be stuck in hell, burn forever.
You're listening to Ideas in the Afternoon on CBC Radio 1 and on CBC.ca. I'm Paul Kennedy. We'll be back with more Visions of Fire after this 90-second break for local information.
Partly cloudy and -1 degree in downtown Toronto. Good afternoon. I'm Victoria Foley with a CBC News update. Ontario's Special Investigation Unit is looking into a police shooting that left a 34-year-old man dead. It happened last night around 7:30 outside the Eglinton Town Centre Cineplex Odeon Theatre in Toronto's East End. The victim has not been identified. A second person has now died as a result of a fire Christmas Eve in Ottawa. The fire in the city's Alta Vista area has now killed 2 people and displaced dozens of others. A 23-year-old man has been charged with second-degree murder and arson. NRCMP officers are at Toronto's Pearson International Airport this afternoon. They have been brought in to help cope with the new tighter security measures imposed on U.S.-bound flights. For more on these and other stories, check out our website at cbcnews.ca/Toronto.
But this is Ottawa. Why are we here in Toronto?
The weather forecast for Ottawa. Cloudy and a chance of flurries and a high of 0 today. Tonight, a few flurries ending overnight. Winds picking up, then cloudy and a low of -16 with a wind chill of -27. Tomorrow, a clear morning, winds picking up late midday. Temperature steady near -14, wind chill -29. And that's your weather forecast for Ottawa.
You're listening to CBC Radio 1, 91.5 in Ottawa.
I'm Paul Kennedy. Welcome back to Ideas in the Afternoon. Today, Visions of Fire. Here again is Max Allen talking with fire historian Stephen J. Pine.
Fire has gotten to be symbolic of trouble these days, hasn't it? Because all the fires you see on television are disaster fires.
And part of fire's curse is that it is so telegenic, it is so graphic, and particularly for something like television, it moves. So whatever message you want to animate, you try to get fire in it. So if you're talking about tropical deforestation, you want to show the burning. If you're talking about loss of biodiversity, you want to show fire as a part of it. If you're talking about pollution, you're going to show smoke, you're going to show fire. If you want to show threats to parks or preserves, you show a good fire.
That was a piles of sand with salt in it.
Almost all of these are negative images, and it's very hard to find in a systematic way a series of counter images because we no longer live our daily lives in industrial societies.
Our daily lives. Isn't that such a strange term?
Family used to
Our
be defined
daily
as those
lives.
who
Do we
share
have
the
any other kind of
fireside.
life?
Well, now they share a home entertainment center, for
We have our
heaven's sakes.
monthly lives. Okay.
One of the great
Our yearly
telegenic
lives.
images of fire, negative, is Brazil on fire. Looks, from the pictures I've seen, like the whole country is burned down. You have some experience with this.
Well, I think some areas in Brazil, the fires are clearly damaging, where they're rolling back the mature rainforest and simply burning it up to make pasture. This is not, as the saying goes, a sustainable.
Sure.